Hi, good people. This is Deborah. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Welcome to my platform, a space of educational, reflective, and thought provoking content. My mission is to share knowledge with intention, respect, and spiritual discernment, guided by both intuition and research. It discusses sensitivities, topics including slavery, indentured servitude, racism, and anti-miscegenation laws to provide a content for understanding the evolution of interracial marriage laws in America. I speak what I know as truth, even when it's uncomfortable. The harmful behavior of the past and the present, like indentured servitude and segregation, have not disappeared. They have gone underground, showing up covertly and quietly from housing and education, class, and culture. It is not just between Albion and Swarthy people. Within the Swarthy community, classification and internalized bias continues to divide people who share the same history, skin tone, and ancestry. So this conversation goes deeper than just race. It explores how people treat each other from this ugly history. I invite you to take what resonates with you and what does not resonate with you, put it on the shelf or throw it away. The name of this video is The Hidden History of Interracial Marriage Laws and the Children Still Affected Today. The anti-miscegenation laws were laws that banned interracial marriage and relationship, mainly between Albion people and people of other races, primarily African, original Americans, or Asian individuals. The goal was to keep races separated, especially in terms of family and reproduction, a tool of racism and supremacy. Indentured servants were people of all races who agreed to work for a certain number of years, usually 4 to 7 years, without pay in exchange for passage to colony, to a colony, food, shelter, and sometimes land or freedom dues to afterwards. Before the 1500s, interracial marriages was common in the parts of Europe and the Mediterranean. Keep in mind, that's key. There was always interracial marriages, always. In ancient and medieval period, uh, interethnic and interracial unions, especially among traders, royals, and colonists, occurred without formal racial bans. In 1500 to 1600, European colonists spread racial ideology. European powers began associating race with status, leading to emerging social taboos against interracial unions, especially in the colonies. In 1600 to 1700, criminalization in European colonies began. 1661, Virginia, USA, first anti can never get that word out of my mouth good. Miscegenation laws in England colonies. 1685, the French Code banned interracial marriage in French colonies. Similar laws spread through British, Spanish, Dutch, and Portuguese colonies. In 1800, anti-miscegenary laws peak in colonies and U.S. states. Many Western countries impose and maintain legal social bans on interracial marriages. In 1948, California, USA, overturned ban in Perez versus Sharp. First, the U.S. state Supreme Court struck down an anti-miscegenation laws. 1965 to 1967, the end of the U.S. ban. 1967, Loving versus Virginia. U.S. Supreme Court declares all race banned marriages banned unconstitutional. And so in 1970 to 1990, global discrimination trend. Countries like South Africa, post apartheid, 1985 repeat, and others dismantle remaining racial marriages laws. Just as a background of what initiated this, the Bacon Rebellion took place in 1676 in Virginia colony. It was a short-lived uprising led by colonist Nathaniel Bacon against Governor William Berkeley rule, a wealthy planter and landowner in Virginia colony. He was a wealthy Englishman from well-connected family. He was educated at Cambridge University and came to Virginia in 1674 with money and status. He bought land and became a planter, part of the colony upper class. He led the revolt against the colonial government of Virginia in 1676, indentured servitude, mostly Africans. The rebellion was called Bacon's Rebellion because Nathan Bacon was the main leader, the person in charge, and the person first figurehead of the uprising. Bacon Rebellion in 1676 was about land, Native America. They call it Native America, but it's the original people, policy, and class conflict. Not about interracial marriages. Bacon did not cause the marriage laws. His rebellion helped trigger elite fears that led to those laws. Virginia passed its first anti interracial marriage law in 1691, 15 years after Bacon died. Learn how race politics and resistance shaped the laws around love and why interracial marriage was once common. It was before America, people, then criminalization, and finally legalized again. Timeline of interracial marriage in early America from acceptance to bans and back again. Before English colony pre 1607, in Spain and Portugal during the 1400 1500, African Moors, often Muslims or converted Christians, intermarried with European women. Okay, just wanted to let you know that because I think it's important that you know that this wasn't their first rodeo in America. They had always married the Albion women. Now these relationships continue in the colonization of Americas, particularly in the Caribbean and Latin America. Africans held military and noble status, and marriages were often legally recognized. Okay, so early colonial Virginia, early 1600. Africans first arrived in Virginia in 1619, many as indentured servants, similar to poor whites. I left it like that, but I'm talking about the Avians. I don't like calling people white because they're not. At this time, racial lines were not yet legally or socially rigid. Africans and Europeans lived, worked, and sometimes married each other, especially among the lower classes. So they were always together, people. Now, example, Anthony and Mary Johnson, mid 1600. Anthony from Angola gained his freedom, married Mary, and became a prosperous landowner. That's what they say. He owned 250 acres and even had indentured servants, becoming the first permanent black landowner in British America. Now, in 1664, Maryland, the first land banned interracial marriage between white women and black men. I left those titles so you can understand clearly who I'm talking about. Legal crackdown, anti-miscegenation begins in 1691 in response to class unity. Virginia passed the first anti-miscegenation law in 1691. It banned marriages between Albions and black, indigenous people, or mulattoes. Albino females who married non-albino males were banished from the colony. If she had a mixed race child, she had to pay a hefty fine and serve as an indentured servant for 5 years. These laws were political tools designated to divide the poor and entrench a racial caste system. Long term impact. These early laws set the foundation for the Albion supremacy in law. Blackness was legally tied to permanent enslavement, while poor Albions were granted limited privileges. This divide and rule approach had solidified for centuries through colonial and U.S. law. Now, the 1900 century expansion of miscegenation laws in the 1800s. After 1865, nearly every southern and many western states had anti-miscegenation laws. Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky banned Albion and black marriages. California extended it to Asia. Arizona included Filipino, goodness gracious, Filipinos and Hindus. Oregon banned marriages between albinos and blacks, original Americans, Asians, and native Hawaiians. In 1850 to 1900, southern and western states. Laws passed in many states, Mississippi, Alabama, California, banned marriages between whites and blacks, Asians, and Native Americans. Pace versus Alabama in 1883. The Supreme Court upheld anti-miscegenation uh, laws, and a black man and an albino female were arrested for cohabitation. The court ruled that no violation occurred since both were punished equally. 1948, California, Perez versus Sharp, first state to strike down a ban on interracial marriage. 1967, U.S. Supreme Court, Loving versus Virginia, and anti-miscegenation laws were made unconstitutional nationwide. Resistance and legal challenge, 1940s to 1960. Perez versus Sharp, 1948. First successful challenge to the state ban, California. The court ruled the marriage was fundamental right and regardless of race. International couple often lived in secrecy or fled to more tolerant area, laying the groundwork for legal reform. Loving, Love on Trial, 1958 to 1967. Mildred Jeter, black, and they say she's indigenous, and Richard Lovin, which is an albino, were arrested in Virginia for marrying in D.C. Given the choice, prison or 25 years in exile from Virginia. They chose exile, then later challenged the law. Loving versus Virginia, 1967. The Supreme Court ruled that anti-miscegenation laws were unconstitutional, ending all legal bans in the U.S. Aftermath and legacy. After 1967, interracial marriage rate climbed. In Georgia, It went from 21 interracial marriages in 1967, 115 by 1970. Nationally, 0.4% of marriages in 1960, 16% by 2015. 2022, the Respect for Marriage Act federally protected interracial and same sex marriages. Final takeaway: international union in each America was common by racial caste system were codified. The bands that followed Bacon's rebellion were not rooted in morality, they were political. They served to divide the working class and to uphold the elite power. The struggle for love and equality continues to shape American history, and from Anthony Johnson to the Loving. I have indicated some references here. The reason why I brought this to your attention, I wanted you to know that always the Africans and the Albino females were marrying before the Virginia process. And what do I think of that? I personally feel that people should marry whoever they want to marry. And that's how I feel. But if they're underage, you see, back in the time, what in my studies and my intuition, the Caucasian males always, not voluntarily, they have taken what they want from the brown woman. They took it. They raped many underage brown skinned girls, and that was acceptable. But the males, the black males or the African males, did not rape that Caucasian or that albino female, and that's wrong. And they're doing the same shit today. And what I'm saying, that sex should be permissible by the person that you want it from. You should not be taking anything from anybody. And I have no problem with different marriages and different cultures. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're of age. Um, we need to learn to respect one another. Like I said, the school system itself taught us, because I didn't do it though. I don't know, I had sense for some reason. But the school system taught separation, segregation, challenging, competition, and all the negatives. And so when people grew up, they took that with them. And we have to learn. The thing that I don't like about so-called black men, here's what I want to tell you: stop lying on the so-called black woman or the brown woman, saying that she's mouthy this, she's mouthy that. You want to be with that Caucasian or that albino female, go for it. But don't use it as an excuse. Don't use the brown woman as an excuse and say ugly things about her so you can be with that albino female. Go for it. I don't like that, because you lying and you generalize, but it's in your nature to be with that albino female, because if you from Africa history, that's what they did. And it's okay. But what ain't okay is that you lying on the brown skinned woman. Go get with that albino female. Now, what I've seen and read and know, that the albino male has raped the brown skinned woman. You need to stop that. It needs to be reciprocated, as in, you want her, she wants you. You need to stop. And that's what I've seen. Stop raping the women. You don't have to do that because your ancestors did it. Stop repeating what your ancestors did. I'm talking about in countries all over the world, not just America. Stop it. If you don't want the brown woman like you want like you would the albino woman, that's okay. But don't mistreat her, because there's a lot of that that's been going on. Stop it. You know, the brown man, or the African male, or the American brown male, it's okay if you like the albino and want to be with her. Do it. And I'm repeating it because I want you to understand it's okay. Just like it's okay for the brown woman to be with whatever culture she wants to be with. But it's not okay for the albino man to rape. Stop it. Okay. Until the next time, take care, good people.